there are 10 players currently flying up the fantasy football rankings right now because either their role or situation has improved, or maybe there's been some positive coach speak coming out about them during OTAs and minicamp. So let's break down who these players are, but more importantly, what you need to do about it for your fantasy football drafts. And let's start with the first and maybe most obvious player who's rising up the rankings, and that's J.K. Dobbins, because he finally signed with a team somewhat recently, and it couldn't have been probably a better fit because he lands with the Denver Broncos, who had a pretty thin depth chart behind their rookie RJ Harvey. Dobbins will be attached to Sean Payton, a top 5 offensive line, and he steps into a backfield with over 300 touches up for grabs. And on this channel, you already know we love RJ Harvey, and right now though, he is slipping into the 5th rounds of drafts, and we said earlier during the draft season that there's probably a pretty good chance that RJ Harvey becomes a 4th or a 5th round pick if no serious competition is added. The fact that J.K. Dobbins gets added hopefully will keep RJ Harvey as a 5th, maybe even bump him back down into the 6th or 7th rounds of drafts, but you can't really say that Harvey was going to see all 300 plus of those touches. He's not really built to be doing that, and when you see the other competition here of Audric Estime and Jaleel McLaughlin, it makes sense that Denver wanted to go out and get a veteran back in J.K. Dobbins. I think these are going to be the two guys to split the backfield. I still do believe that RJ Harvey is the more explosive. He is the younger back. I think he's the more versatile back. I think if you look at last year what J.K. Dobbins was doing, I think Harvey has a good chance to be more efficient as well. But that doesn't mean J.K. Dobbins can't see 8 to 12 plus touches per game and upside if the rookie Harvey, who again is a rookie, does not actually pan out in the NFL. Last year, Dobbins was top 20 in fantasy points per game very quietly. After a hot start to the season, he ended up getting banged up later on in the season, and he kind of sputtered out a little bit. But that was behind a worse offensive line, a worse efficient overall unit in terms of run blocking, and he wasn't as far removed from his Achilles injury as he is right now. And believe it or not, J.K. Dobbins was actually top 7 in explosive play rating of 10 plus yards last year compared to all running backs in the NFL. I will say though, a lot of this was kind of propped up by his first month of the season and really his first 2 weeks of the season, where against like a Raiders poor run defense to start the year, he was breaking off like 5, 6, 7 explosive plays over a 2-week stretch. So a lot of it's propped up by that. He kind of started to slow down as the year went on. But this is really interesting because when his first contact came more than a yard after the line of scrimmage, look where J.K. Dobbins ranked with some of the most efficient running backs in the NFL. This is according to Fantasy Points data. Like some of these names you would expect up here: Saquon, Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Devon Achane. These are all arguably first-round fantasy picks, Achane and a second-round pick. And then there's J.K. Dobbins. That's how efficient he was last year. Again, behind an offensive line that dealt with injuries and was not as efficient as the offensive line that he's most likely going to be playing behind this year in Denver. So right now, if we take a look at where J.K. Dobbins is going, he's going in the 11th rounds of fantasy drafts right now. He's going as the 128th overall pick in drafts. And when I just look at who he's going next to, Rachaad White, a backup who I do think has some upside attached to Bucky Irving in case Irving does go down. He dealt with injuries last year. Jaden Blue, who might be the RB3 on his own team, a rookie. Like, yeah, J.K. Dobbins stands out as the sore thumb, at least at the running back position in this range of drafts, as someone who is a value. Now, again, we can like two different guys in a backfield. If RJ Harvey's going in the 5th or 6th rounds of drafts and we like him as a potential league winner, there's nothing wrong with also saying the 11th round pick in J.K. Dobbins has some upside as well. So that's a player that's skyrocketing up the rankings that I actually like. Now here's another player. Yes, and you might be laughing, Miles Sanders. What team is he even on? Is he still on the Panthers? No, he's on the Dallas Cowboys now, but this is a player who's also rising up draft boards quickly, but I would say not quickly enough. Now Sanders is in the Cowboys backfield, which is basically wide open with Rico Dowdle gone. We know Ezekiel Elliott isn't there, so there's 309 carries up for grabs compared to last year and 64 backfield targets. This is the Cowboys' current backfield. You have the veteran in Javonte Williams, who Javonte Williams himself is not a terrible pick if he continues to go into double-digit rounds. You have the rookie in Jaden Blue out of Texas, who does have some flaws to his games, but probably the most explosive back in this backfield. You have Phil Maffa, a late-round pick that was added as well, former quarterback in college. And then there's Miles Sanders, which, like, if you actually think about it, Javonte Williams has had some success in the NFL before his injury, that one year where he got a lot of check-down targets from Russell Wilson. But in terms of best season in the NFL, it's probably Miles Sanders, especially what he did in the second half of his rookie year with the Eagles. And when you're comparing him to the other veteran in this backfield in Javonte Williams, I think this is a pretty good snapshot from Ian Hartitz. It says the Cowboys RB1, we could put quotes because it's pretty loose, RB1, Javonte Williams last season amongst 36 running backs. Look at this. He ranked 32nd in yards per carry. He ranked 35th in yards after contact. His rushing grade was 36, dead last, and his explosive run rate was 26. So in terms of all of his efficiency metrics, Javonte Williams didn't do much last year with the Denver Broncos. That's why they basically didn't re-sign him, and they were trying any running back they could last year. The only thing he was doing was catching check down targets. He ranked top 5 in targets, Javonte Williams, last year. But Javonte is still getting the majority of the first team reps because of that ability to catch passes and maybe just his size as well as what this Cowboys team likes. But we just saw at the end of minicamp, Miles Sanders Sanders got a few more opportunities with the first team offense. So the only running backs to get touches in OTAs or minicamp with the first team offense, mostly Javonte Williams and then Miles Sanders. The rookies didn't get any. And this has led some beat writers in Dallas, some insiders, to believe that Miles Sanders is bidding for a starting role in OTAs. And I would say, like, overall, Miles Sanders, sure, he's going to be involved. I don't even know if any of these running backs for the Cowboys really take the starting job and see 60-70% of the snaps or 1,400 yards like Rico Dotto did last year. But that's fine because they're not currently, especially Miles Sanders, priced like that in fantasy drafts. But here's some more context. Because let's not forget what Miles Sanders did just a couple of years ago. He ranked 8th in carries, top 5 in rushing yards with over 1,200, and was averaging almost 13 fantasy points per game. So yeah, I would say that's the most proven running back season in this backfield right now. And then look at this. He currently goes in fantasy drafts as the 221st overall pick, which basically means he's not being drafted. He's going as the running back 66 behind the Kansas City Chiefs running back Elijah Mitchell, who at best is the RB3, maybe RB4 on that team. He's going next to some teams' defenses. I mean, Shedeur Sanders, who could be the Brown starter, or he could be the third option on that team, right? This is where he's currently going, Miles Sanders. If we're looking at this range of the draft, you're talking about the last round of a best ball draft. You're talking about, say, your league drafts 18 rounds, which you should. That's the optimal round choice, in my opinion. That's maybe a last round dart throw you should at least have in mind. Or really, more importantly, once the season starts, Miles Sanders should be in your head as a waiver wire ad because he's a top 2 option in a Cowboys offense that's going to target the running back position and get to the red zone often. So I do think Miles Sanders is interesting, at least to keep an eye on. And then we have Dante Thornton. This is a rookie 4th round pick for the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's actually rising up draft boards right now. And if you don't already know this is a pretty crazy stat. Here's what he did at the NFL Combine. He ran a 4.3, 99th percentile overall in terms of 40-yard dash, top 1% speed score for his size, because Dante Thornton is 6'5", 205 pounds. There's only been 2 other wide receivers to have his size and speed profile in the NFL, at least that tested at the Combine: Calvin Johnson and Randy Moss. So that's pretty crazy. And now this 4th round pick from the Las Vegas Raiders, he's already flashing in OTAs and really minicamp as well. So much so that he's actually been playing over the 2nd round pick for the Raiders, Jack Bech out of TCU, who's been getting a lot of hype. Somebody that I like on this channel, can work in the slot and out wide. But Jack Bech hasn't been getting first team reps. It's been Jacoby Myers and it's been Dante Thornton running with the ones as of right now, which is very interesting. Also, Raiders Jackson Powers Johnson, their offensive lineman, was asked, like, who's the most standout rookie, obviously besides Ashton Genty on this team, and he basically said, I mean, Dante Thornton is a huge one. He's getting a lot of reps with the big boys. That's the first team, and he's not flinching. In film, you never see him messing up. Jack Bech is another one. So he also mentions Jack Bech as well there. Those are the top 2 wide receivers taken in the draft by the Raiders. But as of right now, and it is early, it looks like Thornton has a top 2 wide receiver job, a starting job on this team, which is important because he's going to be playing with Geno Smith, and these are Geno Smith's stats from last year: top 5 in deep ball attempts. Thornton, if you know anything about him from college, is basically a burner. We said he had 4.3 speed, 6'5". He wins contested catches often. He just wins downfield. So you're really not going to expect this guy to see 120, 130 targets. But if he can go out there, have 4 or 5 catches a game, be like an elevated version of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, or even that type of version, based on where he's currently going in fantasy drafts right now, and let's pull it up, where he's currently going in fantasy drafts, it kind of makes him a steal. 292nd overall. He's going undrafted is what that means. He's going around basically every single team's kicker at this point. He's going around Kayshon Boutte, a wide receiver 4 or 5, might not even make the team for the Raiders, right? You have a couple of rookies down here. Torrey Horton for Seattle, who's interesting as well, and Dante Thornton right now for the Raiders. These guys are basically going undrafted, and Thornton, he's skyrocketing up the rankings in terms of he was going outside the top 350 picks. You're talking about people who draft like 20, 22 rounds in best ball drafts. Now he's actually getting a little bit of steam. Somebody to keep in mind, again, probably for your waiver wires. Now this next guy, I believe you can actually draft, especially in like if you draft 16 to 18 rounds, because he could be a top 2 option for the Denver Broncos. He's their 3rd round pick. Some people think they reached on Pat Bryant. Sean Payton seems to love him right now. It's another rookie wide receiver standing out, and he's just getting all these comparisons from Sean Payton. Sean Payton says there were so many parts of his game that reminded me of Michael Thomas. This was around the time of the NFL draft. He then doubled down on that during OTAs, where Pat Bryant seemed to be the most impressive player out there. He basically talks about him looking like a Michael Thomas comp at wide receiver again, and then he says he just does the little things that we're coaching up, but you like what you see. I like what I see. He basically said he's tough. It's important to him. He's winning contested catches. He looks like an NFL player out there. We know Courtland Sutton's the number 1 on this team. We know that they ended up going out there and added Evan Ingram, who's going to be in the middle of the field, but they need a wide receiver 2 or 3, and Pat Bryant, somebody who can work on the outside and inside like a Michael Thomas. And as of right now, like, don't get me wrong, he has competition. Sutton, like we said, we know is the one. Marvin Mims is somebody who, when he actually got reps last year, was standing out. Devon Vele was a late round rookie last year, and he was standing out, and he was also having a nice camp, although Vele right now is banged up, which opened up more opportunities for the rookie and Pat Bryant. So again, this isn't like a slam slam dunk. He's going to be a top 2 option on his team, but he's not being drafted like that. If you just want to kind of get an idea for his 2024 college numbers, here's some interesting stats from Lance Sanderson on Twitter. You can check him out. I really like this one. He said he only had 1 drop on 78 targets, and this is what a veteran coach like Sean Payton is going to have to see. You're going to have reliable hands if you want to stay on the field. 52 out of his 54 total catches went for either a first down or a touchdown. Now, we talk about yards per route run. It's an efficiency stat for wide receivers. Kind of just shows you how good they are overall compared to other receivers. First downs per route run is another one. And last year, he was amongst some of the top leaders in the country in first downs per route run and touchdowns per route run. This is like a Devontae Adams stat. Like Devontae Adams said this on the Receiver Show on Netflix. Like, I get paid to get first downs and touchdowns. Like, that's all these guys want to do out there is move the chains and score touchdowns. And if you can do that at a high level, you're obviously going to stay on the field. And then just another stat here. He was the 6th highest wide receiver on at least with 78 targets in college, and his catch rate at 69%. Again, it just shows how reliable it is. He's not dropping catches in contested catch situations. He's coming down with the ball for his quarterback, which only builds trust with that quarterback and the coaching staff. So another guy who's basically not being drafted in most drafts. He's going as the 217th overall pick in fantasy drafts right now. It's like an 18th round pick, a last round pick. Another situation where like come week 1 or really the preseason, we'll get more clarity on this wide receiver room, I think, and training camp. But come week 1, we're going to see Courtland Sutton and Evan Ingram out there. Who will be that next guy? Will the Pat Bryant hype pay off? Will it be Marvin Mims still? If Pat Bryant starts to run 25, 30 routes in week 1 or even in some preseason games, he's going to start to skyrocket up even more. Another wide receiver we got to talk about, not a rookie here. This is a former 6th round pick. He's now a veteran in the NFL, and that's DeAndre Douglas, who quietly had a really good year last year. Like, if you just look at what this guy was doing, he ranked top 5 in total slot snaps with almost 500. If you're talking about the context of the Patriots offense, where Hunter Henry was leading the team in overall targets, it's a pretty good season when you look at it that way, right? 67 catches, 621 yards behind a bad offensive line with a rookie quarterback who was solid, but he just didn't have the right infrastructure around him. But now they should have that infrastructure. We'll get into the coaching staff changes in a second. They ended up adding pieces in the draft for the offensive line, a top 5 pick. And so far through OTAs and minicamp, it's been reported by multiple different outlets that DeAndre Douglas, from what they saw on the field, is on track to have a featured role in the Patriots offense. And again, that makes sense. The dude had 67 catches last year. Why would you end up changing that and just not feature him? Like, I get it. Stephon Diggs is there, and he'll probably be the one, assuming that he's healthy. And as of right now, he looks healthy. But after that, a 3rd round pick in Kyle Williams is getting some hype, but I wouldn't be shocked if not even, I think it probably should be the favorite that the 67 catch DeAndre Douglas, reliable in the slot, should be on the field in 3 wide receiver sets, maybe even 2 wide receiver sets over Kyle Williams, although I'm not too sure about that. We'll have to see how the preseason plays out. But as I mentioned, like, yeah, there's just a more mature coaching staff in right now, one that's a little bit more reliable. You have Mike Vrabel, a defensive focused head coach. He's going to be coming in. You have a Josh McDaniels coming in, which I think is going to work wonders as an offensive coordinator and not a head coach, compared or combined with Drake May. And Josh McDaniels loves targeting his slot wide receivers. Sure, Stephon Diggs, aging, coming off of a torn ACL, will see some slot usage, but in 3 wide receiver sets, it should be DeAndre Douglas. And as of right now, DeAndre Douglas is yet another player going outside the top 200 picks. My guess would be by August, he starts to go within those top 170 picks. Even more hype starts to come out about him when he's going around just backup running backs and DJ Giddens and Devin Neal, these rookie backups who might be, we're hoping they're the RB2s on their team, but it's not a guarantee. I think DeAndre Douglas stands out as a clear option coming off of a nearly 70 reception season last year. And by the way, if you want to see exactly where I have some of these players ranked and actually my top 50 overall rankings, so you could dominate the first 4 to 5 rounds of your draft, because if you mess those up, well, it's hard to really win your league. But with the link in the description below, you can get them to this page right here. Enter your email and I'll just send you my top 50 rankings completely free. They'll be tiered out. They'll be broken down by who are the best and worst values in every single round. Again, the link is in the description below right now, or you can just head to fantasyrankingsfree.com. That's fantasyrankingsfree.com. Link down below as well. Now, those are the top 50 rankings. If you want to take it a step further and get my top 250 rankings, my tiers, all my other draft tools, and in-season tools for the entire year, well, you can check out my fantasy blueprint. This is the page that you will be taken to with the link in the description below, or you can go to jointheblueprint.com and you can join over 10,000 other people who are actively using my fantasy blueprint from past years and current years right now. It's the tools that I use in every single one of my drafts, but then week to week as well during the season, the in-season tools. And also, it's the only spot that you get one-on-one access to me to ask me questions in our exclusive Discord chat. Basically, if you want to not have to stress out about beating your friends this year and you actually want to be the one every single week in the group chat just smack talking during the Sunday games, this is going to help you do that. It's going to help you win your draft, smack it around your friends weekly, and ultimately take home a fantasy championship. Check it out down below at jointheblueprint.com. The prices will be increasing significantly come August 1st. The next player is skyrocketing up the rankings, and we're starting to get to some actual veterans that are going in like the top 6, 7 rounds of drafts. We're talking about DeAndre Swift here because, I mean, it's hard not to like DeAndre Swift right now. based on what he just did last year. First off, like, let's look at it, right? I think DeAndre Swift looks like an awesome pick. I think a lot of people give him a lot of slack, but everything that's happened this offseason has only worked for him. This is a guy coming off of a year where between 959 rushing yards and 386 receiving yards, he had over 1,300 total yards last year. He scored 6 touchdowns, quietly caught 42 balls as well. And now you're looking at it, and everything just absolutely improved for him heading into this season on the same team with the Chicago Bears. For starters, DeAndre Swift has one of the most improved offensive lines in the league. Like, you have the Minnesota Vikings up there, and you also have the Chicago Bears. You can see here, they added Jonah Jackson, or they ended up trading for some players like Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, a center. So already the offensive line looks 10 times better than last year. They had a first-round pick in Colston Loveland, second-round wide receiver who's currently hurt in Luther Burton, so this should only improve the offense even more. And of course, they ended up bringing in Ben Johnson, the former coordinator for DeAndre Swift during his time with the Lions. But here's the thing overall, Ben Johnson is maybe the best play caller in the league. Now you pair him with a better offensive line, a lot of playmakers. They already have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Caleb Williams. This is looking good for Swift because he was also able to avoid any serious competition this offseason. They didn't bring in J.K. Dobbins. They didn't sign Nick Chubb. They didn't get a legit running back in the draft. 7th rounder Kyle Monangai is a 7th rounder. I'm not going to be just banking on that hit rate, which is very low for 7th round picks. And there's a narrative out there. We covered this in the last video, so we don't have to get too in depth, that Ben Johnson hates DeAndre Swift, right? You see this narrative if you really follow fantasy Twitter or podcast. I think it's a silly narrative because in 2021, when Ben Johnson was the pass game coordinator, Swift earned a career high in catches with 62 and receiving yards. In 2022, when he took over as the Lions offensive coordinator, Swift ranked 2nd in yards per touch, 5th in yards per route run, and earned 70 targets. And again, in that season, he didn't see a ton of snaps because in week 1 of that season, he played less than 50% of the snaps that year in 2022. Swift got a high ankle sprain, which if you know anything about those, it basically ruins your entire season. So when you get it week 1, that's going to hurt. Here's the competition I talked about. Kyle Monangai, Roschon Johnson, I do believe is like one of these later round, like round 15, 16, 17, depending on your draft, running backs that could actually pop up as a league winner, like if Swift isn't able to take the job, or if these people that think Ben Johnson hates Swift are right. But just in general, I think Johnson's going to be involved more than past years. He's a talented back who can catch and pass protect, but he's not going to be the starter week 1 like DeAndre Swift will be. So right now, DeAndre Swift currently goes as the 66th overall player in fantasy drafts as like an RB 25 right now. I think that's way too late. He's rising up the rankings fast. Like over the last couple of days alone, like the last week, he was in like the mid 70s. Now he's 66. I still like him in that range. Next up, a player who's rising up the rankings after OTAs and mini camps is Calvin Austin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, former 4th round pick, 26 years old. This is a player who had a pretty nice overall OTAs, and you can see right here, here's a tweet from Chris Wetch on Twitter. He says that Calvin Austin ranked 28th in yards per route run out wide last year, which was actually ahead of DK Metcalf and George Pickens, which is an interesting tweet because those guys were on the same team for a short stint before George Pickens was traded to the Cowboys. But that's how good Calvin Austin was in a limited sample with a bad overall offense last year in a bad quarterback situation. Now he comes into an offense where DK Metcalf will surely be the wide receiver 1 on the outside, but after that, like, there's some buzz going to Roman Wilson after he was banged up for much of his rookie year. But we've already seen Calvin Austin produce in the NFL. We don't have to worry about that like a Roman Wilson. We don't know what to expect. Austin last year in a bad offense is like the wide receiver 3, 36 catches, 550 receiving yards. Again, this was a run-first Arthur Smith offense, which will still probably be the case this year, but at least they get the quarterback upgrade in Aaron Rodgers. George Pickens goes away. He's the only guy coming back to this offense in Calvin Austin who was like really a factor last year. DK Metcalf wasn't there, and Roman Wilson wasn't playing. So this is one of those guys in the video that although he's rising up, like you can see here, 254th overall, I do think like there's not a ton of upside for fantasy in terms of like, oh, he's going to win you your league. But in your deeper leagues and your best ball drafts for like a last round pick, he's somebody who's at least interesting. I'd rather have Calvin Austin over Roman Wilson right now. Let's get back to some potential league winners like we talked about with a DeAndre Swift, because I think that's exactly what Ray Davis is, because there's a chance that James Cook ends up holding out. The Bills don't really want to be extending him right now. It seems like he wants to cash in on his 18 touchdown season, which props to him. He did show up to minicamp, but he basically said he was only there because he didn't want to get fined. Based on the way the contracts are right now, there's no way James Cook actually holds out, but if he's going to miss practices in training camp in July and August, well, that's only going to lead to more touches for one Ray Davis, who was already extremely efficient in 2024 as a rookie. Davis was very efficient. He was a top 20 running back in terms of yards created per touch on a limited sample. He had 6 total touchdowns. He had at least 6 games with 10 fantasy points, even though he was basically playing like as the RB2 or 3 for most of the year. But in the one game where James Cook missed and we saw Davis Davis actually get opportunity on a Monday night game against the Jets, he became the workhorse, well ahead of Ty Johnson. 20 carries compared to just 4 for Johnson. 97 rushing yards. Remember this game? He just dominated. He led the team with 3 catches for 55 yards as well. He just went off in this game. He had 23 touches on 23 opportunities. He put up nearly 150 total yards in that game. And you can see from my friend Joe on Twitter's tweet right here, there was another game as well where he was basically the starter because it was the end of the season and James Cook didn't play, not due to injury, just due to it being the end of the season. And he was able to put up 14.6 fantasy points per game. So his 18.2 was a top 10 running back performance. This was a top 20 running back performance. The 2 chances last year where he got extended snaps, he was basically a borderline top 15 running back. He's playing in a really good offense, solid offensive line. They move the ball. There's some deception there with Josh Allen running the ball out of the backfield as well. All this bodes well for Ray Davis. Of course, there's the James Cook issue, and he's going to be the RB1 on this team, but James Cook wasn't even playing 50% of the snaps last year. Ty Johnson had more receiving yards last year than James Cook. Like, outside of those 18 touchdowns, Cook ranked outside the top 25 running backs in touches per game. They're not sold on James Cook being that guy, especially when it comes to the red zone, especially just when it comes to passing down situations. Ray Davis can do all those things. During his time in college at Kentucky, he was known for his ball security. He was known for his ability to kind of just work in between the tackles, which is James Cook's, I don't want to say weakness, but he's more so known for outside runs, and Ray Davis was trusted in the red zone. So when we factor all these things together, of course, James Cook is the starter here, but then you see Ray Davis going as the 149th overall pick right now in fantasy drafts is like the RB45. He's in a range next to Kyle Pittz. Jack Besh, who we already mentioned, is losing out some snaps right now. Rico Dowdle, who looks like a backup, or he is behind Chuba Hubbard. I think Ray Davis has the most upside right now in the Buffalo backfield compared to all these guys in this range of the draft. Now, I'll just warn you about this next guy. Don't laugh, because he's actually rising up the rankings, and for good reason. And that man's name is Daniel Jones. Yes, Daniel Jones, and here's why it matters. Even if you don't want to be drafting Daniel Jones, it's going to matter for the rest of this Colts offense, because as of right now, Anthony Richardson is once again dealing with injury, so it looks like Jones is stepping up over the rookie Riley Leonard to actually be the starter. This makes sense. As you can see here, Richardson was getting a second opinion. He received the second opinion, still plans to rest instead of surgery. He's expected to return at some point during training camp, probably sometime in August, but the reason why this is a problem is Richardson was already on thin ice. He needed as many reps as he could possibly get, and now you're giving all those reps to Daniel Jones to build a connection with these wide receivers that he has no connection with coming over from a different team. And like Richardson, Daniel Jones has rushing upside, right? So they don't have to change the offense all that much. Of course, Richardson is like top of the top when it comes to rushing upside, but last year, Daniel Jones, 26.5 rushing yards per game, above the NFL average. The last time he was a starter with the Giants before that, or his last big year where his best season was, he was top 10 in rushing yards per game. And the only reason why I think this really matters is for this reason. Even if you don't want to draft Daniel Jones, and I really don't, it's going to help this entire offense, I would assume. I would assume right now, I would say Daniel Jones at least has a better resume or season on his resume than Richardson has ever had. That should help Michael Pittman. That should help Josh Downs. Heck, if you're into drafting Alec Pierce or Adonai Mitchell, that should help them. Should definitely help the rookie and Tyler Warren. These guys are going to be operating in the short to intermediate parts of the field in terms of a Tyler Warren, in terms of a Josh Downs out of the slot, and that's exactly where Daniel Jones has targeted players. Just look at Wan'Dale Robinson last year, Sterling Shepard in the past. That's where Daniel Jones likes to throw the ball. So Daniel Jones is currently going as like the quarterback 30 in drafts. Like, you're probably not going to win your league if you're drafting Daniel Jones. Maybe he'll be like the Sam Darnold this year, a midseason pickup attached to Shane Steichen, a solid offensive coordinator, and we could actually maybe have a player there, but we more so want to highlight this because of what it does for the rest of the Colts offense. And I also want to highlight some players who are falling. The first one is going to be the rookie Luther Burton for the Chicago Bears, because the big reason why is he's just banged up right now. Like, this is a second round rookie who already is on a loaded depth chart. DJ Moore, no matter what you want to say about him, if the coaching staff likes him or not, if his attitude is there or not, he's a talented player. Roman Dunze, definitely a talented player. Then you have Luther Burton, who's also competing with DeAndre Swift out of the backfield for some touches in terms of targets in the short areas of the field, competing with the first round tight end in Colston Loveland as well, a top 10 overall pick. So the competition was already difficult for Burton, and now he's dealing with an injury that kept him out of OTAs and minicamp, and his new offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, was not happy about it. Like, he's obviously not blaming the guy for getting hurt, but he was just a little bit frustrated if you were to watch this video, because it makes sense. Like, the most valuable reps for a rookie are rookie OTAs, minicamp, so you can actually get your feet under you, know the NFL offense. He hasn't had a chance to do that, so he's already so far behind. Burton currently goes as like a 10th or 11th round pick. The fact that he's going next to, and actually right now above on average, Jaden Higgins, the rookie wide receiver, outside starting wide receiver right now for the Texans, is just crazy to me. Don't make that mistake. The next guy we should talk about is Jack Besh. We don't have to spend much time here because we went in depth on Dante Thornton. Jack Besh currently seems like he's behind Dante Thornton on the depth chart, and that is a problem, I should say, because Jacoby Myers is the clear one there. We know Brock Bowers is passes there. So these two guys aren't going to have a lot of targets left over, especially with Ashton Jeanty catching passes. So if it's Thornton running more routes early on ahead of Jack Bech, it kind of buries Jack Bech to some extent. This offense should be more run heavy this year under Pete Carroll, and the fact that they drafted Ashton Jeanty, which leaves even less targets compared to last year for both of those guys. So maybe Jack Bech is just kind of like next year's replacement for Jakobi Meyers. He kind of molds out as that player, playing the slot, play out wide. It's really early. It's hard to really tell at this point, but early on, it looks like Jack Bech should be dropping down the rankings and somebody that maybe you hold off on right now. Similar things can be said for this backfield, because we have to talk about the Texans backfield. Obviously, Joe Mixon is there. He's the starter, but they recently signed Nick Chubb, which is going to hurt the rookie in Woody Marks, who I thought was like a dark horse, and maybe he still is, to kind of come out of this backfield and maybe lead it in targets with a quiet 45, 50 plus targets, a late round option, a waiver option if Mixon misses time, which it seems like he does a couple of games each season like last year. If you're not familiar with Woody Marks, he's the 4th round rookie. He's already 24 years old, so an older prospect for the Texans, but check this out right here. All this guy does is catch passes. I mean, maybe the best pass catching running back in this draft class. 83 catches as a freshman, 48, 23, and 47. Just for context, as a running back in college, if you just have a 23 reception season, that looks good. 20 plus catches as a college running back, the way they run those offenses, is solid. 48 is like unheard of. 83 is just absolutely insane. I mean, this guy can absolutely catch passes, and I actually think the Nick Chubb signing, I don't think Nick Chubb does anything this year. The Nick Chubb signing is only going to drop Woody Marks in drafts, which maybe makes him even more of a value. Marks currently goes outside the top 250 players. Probably not a guy you're actually drafting, but a guy that if you have Joe Mixon and you're into handcuffing, maybe you handcuff him. Or if you're just thinking about like waiver wire priority bidding when the season starts, just remember that Woody Marks is an elite pass catching running back. If Joe Mixon was to miss time, Marks maybe gets like 8 to 12 carries a game, but has the upside to see like 4 or 5 catches. Jaylen McMillan has to be falling down the rankings, and he really has been since the NFL draft, since they went out there and drafted Emeka Egbuka in the 1st round. And look, he was great last year, especially down the stretch. He ended up averaging over 10 fantasy points per game, propped up mostly by scoring 8 touchdowns on just 37 catches. Now, overall, 8 touchdowns on 37 catches isn't sustainable, especially when Chris Godwin is coming back this year. As of right now, Mike Evans, even though he's older, he's still producing at a high level and he's healthy. And we know that the team spent a 1st round pick, rather surprisingly, on Emeka Egbuka out of Penn State, who's already tearing it up right now in OTAs and rookie minicamps. He's looking fantastic. Like, he's actually going to have a pretty good shot. He's going to start in 3 wide receiver sets, and at some point, if one of these 2 veteran wide receivers miss any time, Egbuka is going to be the guy to come in, which means that Jaylen McMillan is like the 4th option in this passing attack, and that's never where you want to be. And that's exactly why McMillan is currently falling in drafts, but he's not falling enough in my opinion. He goes as the 165th overall pick. Like, this is an offense that's due for aggression. Baker Mayfield's coming off of a career high year. You're looking at a situation where Liam Combs is now gone, so they're already due for passing regression, and now you're competing with the same 2 veterans as last year with Godwin coming back and a new 1st round pick who's highly talented. Not great, in my opinion, for Jaylen McMillan. Also not great for Kyle Pittz right now, but probably nobody has to tell you that. He's already hurt once again. This time it's a foot injury. There's already rumors that he could be traded, and like if he ends up getting traded, who the Steelers are currently like interested, then he's just going to go to a run first offense with Arthur Smith, where we've already seen that not be a success during Arthur Smith's time in Atlanta for Kyle Pittz. So not really somebody I'm looking into. And then we're getting these quotes. Like, if you're getting these quotes from Raheem Morris, he mentioned that the team wants to see better routes from Kyle Pittz. I mean, this is a top 10 overall pick in the NFL draft. He's now like 4 to 5 years into his NFL career, and his head coach is saying we need to see better routes out of the guy who is known for being a pass catching tight end. Not great. So even if Kyle Pitts continues to fall, which right now he is, he's the 150th overall pick. He's currently going next to tight ends like Pat Freiermuth, going next to tight ends like Isaiah Likely. I mean, he's still not going late enough in my opinion. I definitely take Isaiah Likely, who goes after him right now in drafts. Now, look, these are the biggest movers right now in fantasy football over the past few weeks. A lot of them are rising and some guys who are falling. Now, some of these guys are just okay, keep in mind for waiver wire, and some of them, like we mentioned, are guys you actually want to star down and look for in your drafts. But if you want to see the best running back in every single round of your draft, heck, that's how you win your league, finding the best values and best running backs. Well, check out this video right here. It just went up recently, and I think it's going to help you a ton. And I also think those top 50 rankings will help you crush the most important parts of your draft for around 4 to 5. So you can check those out completely free at fantasyrankingsfree.com or with the link in the description below. And just a reminder, the blueprint prices will increase significantly August 1st, so check that out as well if you're interested.